Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. This is fifth and final episode of How to Build a Space Station of our Kerbal Engineering mini-series, and today we will be just putting it all together. So we are taking the launchers that we have built in episode 3, combining them with Orbital rendezvous and docking tutorial that we have shown in episode 4, and we will be applying that knowledge to actually build this station together. Now, one notable exception: we are now launching the station core top, and one notable exception, guys: I will not be assembling the whole station. I will assemble all the core components, top, bottom, and the main axle left and right, and I will be putting a single fuel tank docked with it. The rest is just rinse and repeat, so I don't see really a merit of me showing each individual fuel tank launch, because the principle, once I show one, the principle is exactly the same for everyone else. So yes, now we are going to insert this station into 100 by 100 kilometer orbit, and I will once again be assembling the whole station, but it will be at much accelerated pace and probably quad screens, as I have done sometimes in the past. I will be doing it in my Interplanetary Voyage series anyway, so if you really want to see how the whole complete station is being built, please check there. It will happen sometime probably after the episode, maybe 16 or 17, because those are the ones that I'm recording at the moment, so that's roughly the ballpark, so that you know. Anyway, we are coasting up to 100 kilometer, which will be our orbit, and then we will be kicking the gas to circularize, and I will not, guys, bother with deorbiting the debris. I'm just gonna plain old delete it, because it's not that important here. We are just showing off how to build a station, not how to get rid of orbital debris. I'm pretty sure that you know how to do it on your own. Okay, one important tip: so when you reach your desired orbit, I would recommend that you put your station normal prograde. Especially when you start docking, it's much easier to dock to the station if it's oriented normal, because then it's basically vertical. So yes, we are renaming this to Kerbal Station 1, and I'm not gonna undock this core component just yet. I'm thinking once I launch the second component, then we will see if we need to do some more fiddling, maneuvering, or whatsoever. So this is the launch of the Station 2, core component 2, the bottom part. And now it's getting more important, because we want to launch to intercept the first station, so using the same principles as previously. So as you can see, this is our orbital station, the one that has the station icon. Sorry for the mess. And I'm just kicking the gas and launching. So I wanted it to be roughly, we want to launch ahead of it, so that the station catches up to us and that we end up in the same place in the space, so to say. I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess. Okay, anyway, standard launch, decoupling the boosters, and if you missed the previous episodes where I was taking the station apart and assembling the launchers, this is basically in episode 3. So be sure to check it out. I recommend watching the whole series from 1 to 5 in sequence, and as you can see, this is roughly our rendezvous. So let's accelerate it a little bit, and we will secure a rendezvous anyway, so we don't need to bother, we just will accelerate a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm also using one very, very handy mod. If you are not really adverse to mods, I really love playing with them, is the better burn time, which is the small icons that you can see at the bottom right of my nav ball, just underneath the remaining delta V marker. And once we get closer to our component, it will tell us how close our rendezvous will be compared to target, which I find extremely handy to actually understand. Also, as you can notice, I have switched to the target mode, which basically tells me my relative speed to the target, which is good, and it also tells me where do I need to burn to align target and our retrograde. And as you can see, the station just whizzed past us, so we will have to do some catching up. Oops. Okay, staging, and now it's a little bit ahead of us, so we are chasing to actually reach it. And as you can see, I'm burning towards the station prograde marker. I'm trying to drag my prograde marker on top of the station prograde marker, and currently we are going at 100 meters per second, so I'm relative to the target, so it's a little bit fiddly, but I'm trying to secure us a rendezvous. 37 relative to the target, and it says target 2.5 kilometers in 115 seconds. So as you can see now, I'm once again trying to realign the retrograde markers first, slightly at accelerated pace, because this is all 2 times time is accelerated, so I'm not moving the ship that fast around. But and once again, the procedure is the same. Align your prograde or your retrograde marker with the retrograde marker of your target. So either align prograde or retrograde marker, it doesn't really matter, as long as the pink and the yellow are aligned. I suggest aligning retrograde if you're going very fast to the target and you want to decelerate, so decrease your speed to the target. And prograde marker if you are going too slow and you want to accelerate towards the target. So that would be my kind of recommendation. So as you can see now, I'm going 11 and it's 2.1 kilometers, so I do want to accelerate a little bit more. So as you can see, I align and I then drag a little bit my prograde marker towards the station, and now when they're aligned, I just burn directly towards the station until we get some 20 or 30-ish meters per second, and the station is coming very close to us. So now we want to flip back retrograde, because once we get close enough we want to stop. 20 meters per second. And also depending on how much away your current position marker is from your retrograde yellow reticule, also depends how fast you will be pushing the yellow reticule, so, or pulling, depending on which ones are using prograde or retrograde, I guess. But let's disconnect, and now let's go into another mod that I know and love. Let's disconnect this one first. Decouple, great. So I could in theory dock the top to the bottom, but we already launched the bottom second, so I like really how the top is 104 by 100, so I'd like to keep it that way. Okay. Just flipping to ensure that we are correctly positioned, and now we are burning to the target. We have selected to use control from our bottom docking port, and I'm just trying to find my bearings until I align. I'm first trying to find my orange reticule, which will basically then tell me that we are aligned. Okay, and here it is. So this is the way the docking port is facing, so rotate that we are on even grounds. Okay, so this is the first thing that you should do. You should always position the orange reticule in the center. And by the way, guys, this is Navy Fish docking port alignment indicator mod. I guess there is a way how to do it in stock. I'm just not too familiar with it because I've always used this mod, and this is a mod that it is my preferred mode of choice. It's just simple the way I roll. Maybe at some point in the future I will do also a stock docking tutorial, but for the time being I recommend you check maybe Scott Manley's. He is really good in terms of stock docking, and I think he has some tutorials for the beginners using some stock procedures. But anyway, right now, as you can see, I am burning to get the yellow or the green cross to the center, and then we have two markers below. You can see the distance, that's the absolute distance, and the C distance, which is the relative distance from the docking port. And then the C vel is the velocity towards the docking port. Positive means that we are going towards it, negative would be that we are going away from it. Okay, and I'm using my translational RCS thrusters to just make sure that to keep the green cross in the center, despite my orange reticule being slightly off center. I'm trying to do both. And docked. Okay, so this is the top, now docked to the bottom component, and I just want to once again orient it orbit normal. Something along these lines. And let's turn on the lights, because why not? It will be easier to dock the remaining two components. Okay. Time to launch the main axle. So, this is the first of the two main axle ships. Once again, setting the station as target. And now I am waiting until the station comes relative to me in the sky, right about there. Okay, throttle to max, SAS on, and let's burn. I also decided, I do prefer the liquid fuel boosters, but since I'm playing with real plume mod, which is kind of beautifying, making the plume really look as it should, I have decided to use solid rocket boosters just for the beauty reasons. There is no other reason for using them other than beauty reasons. And because I'm using the SRBs and not the thrust vectoring engines, I obviously do need to put my center of lift behind the center of mass, because there is no other way for me to steer. So I don't have that much authority otherwise. And this engine has thrust vectoring, so it's not a problem. We are burning a little bit more steeper ascent profile, but it doesn't really matter. And okay, we are already apoapsis is at 100, and this one I have launched a little bit or a lot too early. Okay, I think I'll have to do this one the classical approach, maybe. We'll think about it. And let's just try to see how much we will need for the circularization. Can I align these two markers? Maybe. Another way would be to just launch into the orbit and then do the rendezvous. And if at any point the station overtakes you, then you could take a lower orbit, because that one is faster. So you will be catching up to the station, or if you have launched ahead of the station, then circularize at the higher height. So if the station is at 100, circularize at 104 or 110, and then wait for the station to catch up to you. So these are basically two techniques that you can use to end up in the same spot in space afterwards. Okay. So these are basically just few tips I have learned over the time, but I'm ultimately trying to get them right on the launch. Something that I have clearly failed in this case, but still. And once again, you can always do an attempt to see if you can get it by aligning the retrograde markers. That's something that's possible, but I think I will first circularize in this case. Okay, and we are orbital, more or less. Okay, so this is how our burn looks like and how our rendezvous looks like. So it's hardly perfect, but then let's do it the traditional way. So we set the station as a target. We first fix the inclination, because when I was launching I have messed up the inclination a little bit. It's minus 0.3, it's really minuscule, but still we want to be perfect. Okay, you know what? Just reload it. Yeah, I have pressed saved and load, and then I was able to put the maneuver. Okay, sometimes you just need to reset the scene if that thing happens, so F5, F9 and you're golden. Okay, so let's now see if we can improve our... Oh, and here we are. See? We just needed to fiddle a little bit with it, and then this should work royally. No problems whatsoever. 43 meters per second just to get those two aligned, and we should be good to go. Okay. No, maneuver node coming in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. And burning. Perfect. So, as you can see, our maneuver node is quite good, and we will rendezvous at 1.2 kilometers distance on the next pass. Okay, perfect. It's time to do the rendezvous dance. So our relative target to relative speed to the target is 140 meters per second, which is significant, so I do want to reduce it over time. We will be passing it at 1.2 kilometers, and you can actually reduce that distance, as I said, by pushing the yellow retrograde marker, which is your marker, on top of the pink one, which is the retrograde marker of the station. That way you are basically aligning orbital trajectories so they match. Ultimately, you must not forget that you're still traveling at 95 meters per second relative to the target, and if you don't slow down, you will miss the target and just fly by it. So ultimately, when you come very close to the target, your relative speed has to be 0.0. Okay. Making sure that we are now within physics range, or just entering, which this hiccup usually means. And I am slowly reducing my velocity relative to the target. And when I come within, I don't know, 300 meters range, I will try to keep my target below 10. But until then, I'm just keeping it around 10, 15-ish. Because you want to be your relative velocity to be slow, but not too slow, because you still want to approach to the target. So yeah. Okay, we're keeping it around 7, and I think that should be fine. 300, and now I'm reducing it even further. And I want to use my main engine, because that one has enough power to be able for us to maneuver nicely. The moment when we are at 200, then I decide to ditch the fairing and go into the docking mode. Once again, these guys are they're balanced, so they should be fairly easy to dock. But then again, they're like big lumps and they're hard to move a little bit. And I was trying to scrooge on the amount of RCS thrusters, so they are not exactly the world's most nimble things, I can tell you that much. Okay, once again, Navy Fish docking alignment indicator, and controlling from our docking port, aligning the docking port with the docking port on the station, which is the target, selected as target. Putting the reticule in, and I'm already making sure to start with the relative velocity, and our current relative velocity is 1.21 meters per second, which is good enough. And I'm making sure now that both the orange reticule is in the center, that the hanger over it is on 360 position, and that the green cross is getting slowly but surely into the center crosshair, so yeah. Once that all these parameters match and your distance, C distance, gets around 1 to 2, that means you have docked, more or less, almost. So, okay. By rotating, you are positioning the orange reticule, and by translating, you are positioning the yellow hanging thingy left or right, which basically describes your translational lateral thrusting. And once when all of this align, you just then thrust forward using H and M respectively, and then you dock, as you can see. Simple. And dock, there you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. That being said, we have one more core component to dock, and this is basically the main axle, so just rinse, repeat, and do it all over again, shall we? In the meantime, I have fired the flight computer because I want my flight computer of the station to keep orbit normal. Once again, selecting the target and accelerating until we first get out of shade, because I don't want a nighttime docking, and then we are checking out. The second station is our refueling, and as you can see, when it gets roughly where the color is lighter, like here, then it's the ideal case for the launch. Perfect. And hit it. Once again, regular launch. This is actually more like a nighttime launch. I think it's nice because the engine lighting actually mod gives it a beautiful glow. Ultimately, this rocket really likes to correct itself, ditching the boosters, and okay, surface velocity increasing, which is good. Our apoapsis is already in the 30s, which is awesome. And just kicking the gas and riding the rocket all the way to orbit. So at this time I believe I might actually choose to use my better burn time mod, but we'll see. And it says already target at 1.2 kilometers in 100 and a couple of seconds. So I'm trying to set up a maneuver node, but then again, just to make sure that when I accelerate to a sufficient level, I will actually have the rendezvous. Beautiful. Deploy the fairing and extending the communitron, because this is a remote tech, remote controlled ship. We don't have any Kerbals on board. So we have to remember to pop out the antenna, because the short range is just 500 kilometers, and if we get out of the satellite relay range, then we're into trouble. Okay. Then let's get ready to burn towards the target, and the dots indicate the time for our suicide burn, I guess, and kick it. Okay, and okay, I mean, we have a decent enough encounter. We could try to drag the target markers and make sure if we can get an encounter, and we have plenty of delta V, so actually I might attempt that. I first want to get out of this big ugly hulk of a rocket and just try to have a nice smaller one that is actually more maneuverable. And once again, I'm burning to drag my prograde marker to the target prograde, because I want to accelerate compared to the target, and we are going now at 200 meters per second, and our retrograde markers are already aligned, which is a beautiful thing. So we will be passing very close to it in roughly 80-ish seconds, so we have to reduce our speed, obviously. And I'm thinking when we get around to 10-ish, I'm gonna drop the 100 meters per second for sure. Okay, 9, Okay, and 150 meters per second. And now burning to 100, roughly 112. Once we get into the physics range, I want to be around 30-40-ish. It also, guys, a lot depends on the thrust weight of your engine that you're using. We have the thrust weight of 2.36, but if you have weak engines like ions and stuff, then you really have to start burning a lot sooner. Okay, and relative to the target, we are at 700 and our target velocity is 3.3. Well, clearly that wasn't thought through entirely. And now we're at 1.6. Okay, so this means that this docking will be a little bit lengthier one. Let's ditch the fairing. No matter, we are going 3 meters per second relative to the target, but moving away from the target, so I want to fix that real quick. And let's thrust towards the target. Using only our RCS thrusters, because I'm an idiot. I should have kept the other ones, but then again I was so eager to get it docked, but what can you do? In this game, when you're actually trying to rush, you do make mistakes. Fortunately enough, this mistake won't pay that much, so yeah. It's just a little bit longer docking procedure time, so... Okay, I am using my translational thrusters to make sure to align the green translational indicators, and our rotational indicator is already more or less aligned. Once we get actually to the station, I'll need to flip 180 degrees because my solar panels are up. They should be pointing downwards, but I guess it's a minor detail compared to the rest of the stuff. Okay, we have evened out, and now it's just a matter of centering the horizontal velocity indicator, I guess. And at the same time, as you can see, our C velocity is 1.80, so we are definitely closing in on the target, both the absolute and the relative, marked by distance and C distance. I also wanted to select a different docking port because I don't want to be docking at 90 degrees angle. I want to be docking opposite of the last one, which we ended up. And but right at the moment, until we get closer, I have no idea which I would be docking against. I do want to be... Let's use the indicator as is until we get close, and then I'll just select a different docking port and finish up the rendezvous, well, not the rendezvous, the docking dance. ...240 meters to 35, and now I can already tell that my docking port is already on the main axle, which is wrong, so I want to select a different one. And this one is pointing in the same direction, so that's not the one that I want to be using either, but I can use at least this current indicator to approach it correctly. And once that came closer, I'll select one at 90 degrees, so I'm expecting that my orange reticule will be way off. I want to use the docking port which is to the left of the one that I have currently selected, and I think that's this one. So let's try it. Just turning. We should be aligned somewhat like this. Yes, I think that would be the one, and then we have to rotate 180 degrees. Rotate, and our C distance is minus, which means that if we were to hit the station now, we would overlap. And I want to keep the C distance around 10, 15-ish, so that I can dock in nicely without worrying that I'll bump into something. Okay, aligning these two. Great. Then I have to make sure to kill my C velocity. Okay. And now, ooh, I did it too much. Oopsie. I forgot that my RCS thrusters are not nearly as powerful as I would like them to be. So I have crossed it a little bit, but okay. Enough is enough. I mean, I will... That's why it's good that we actually passed it a little bit. Okay, now I want to rotate once again. Like this. And just a little bit on this side. And then correct my C relative velocity. We are at 13 meters relative distance, sorry. And as we are closing in, I already want to be pushing in the other direction because my thrusters aren't omni-powerful, they're just powerful enough. And now when we have aligned, we want to start thrusting towards the actual station. Perfect. Now they're properly aligned, so now let's go and dock this baby. So same principles, as you can see, always apply. Launch, rendezvous, end up in the same space in space, and then decrease your relative target velocity to the target, switch into the docking mode, select your docking port, and just basically shove one docking port on top of the other. As simple as that. There we go. That's the core component station. So to prove the point that it's now possible to launch a tank, and let's deploy first the solar panels, and once we are done with that, then we will be only launching one single fuel tank, and the rest, I mean, I will show the relaunch, which will once again be a different launch because I was using a different save than Interplanetary Voyage. So I'll need to launch this baby again and redock everything again. So I'm launching one more tank to show you guys how to dock a tank, and then I will be calling this for the episode and also for the mini-series on how to build a station, because then I hope that by now you will understand how to build it, how to intercept, how to rendezvous, and all that jazz. But please guys, do send me a comment and let me know what you think of the episode, if you think that it's explained good enough. Once again, rendezvousing, same position in the space as always, and launching. Okay. Beautiful plume provided by Real Plume. And I mean, the one with the tanks they're pretty straightforward and simple to use because they are just, just thrust, so it's no really big deal anyway. Thrusting and going for the apoapsis. Once again, I tend my apoapsis to be slightly higher than the object that I'm aiming for, because the idea is I want the object that I'm aiming for to pass underneath us. So that's the reasoning. But yeah. Apoapsis 101, and there we can see our maneuver. I'm once again aligning the two. I just want to have a sense of prograde marker. Okay, and kicking the gas. And as you can see, I'm reducing the distance between the two markers. And we have a pretty nice encounter like that, which is in 22 seconds. So let's ditch the fairing, and our relative velocity is 987. So We do want to reduce that target velocity, I can tell you that much. Let's just use this one, and the target has already passed us. So I'm burning towards it. It has passed us very quickly but once again this little baby has a good thrust to weight, so I'm making sure that I'm thrusting towards it, and I will be catching up to it. This is why I wanted a small fuel tank with the big engine, so that I can actually chase space stations at my leisure. Relative velocity 132, and we will be passing within 100 meters in the next, 20 seconds? So I have to really decrease my relative velocity. You can already see the solar panels. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but I think it's good that you saw me do a couple of these, so then you get to the hang of things. The key is to keeping the two target markers aligned, so yellow and the pink. Irrespective of which ones, either both prograde or both retrograde. 500 meters away from the station, and at 5.5 meters per second velocity. Ultimately, I don't have to worry that much, because this tank I have already done and tested multiple times, and it's very nimble, very simple to navigate, use and thrust, so it will dock much better than the previous station components, because they were a little bit bulky. Okay, now moving to actually burn for target. I want to decouple, please. Can I decouple? Can I decouple, please? Thank you. Moving away from the fairing, and let's control from the bottom docking port. Let us select the docking port where we want to dock. Well, that one looks as good as any. Really, I don't have a personal preference. Aligning the orange reticule, and now setting up everything else. We're 200 meters away, so we're pretty close. And by the way, guys, once we actually get docked to the station, I will be, like I said, calling the episode and calling it for the series, so please do be sure to, leave a comment if you felt it was useful, or leave a critique if you want some more things explained. Hit the like and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out a great deal. And I guess I will then see you in the next episode. So let's now go, and less talking and more docking. Docking port is selected. 40 meters. As you can see, this tank with these girders is very nimble, very useful. So, by the way, this tug can be reused for multiple ones, but I don't think I will be doing that in my Interplanetary Voyage save, because I'm once again docking the same ship all over again, so it takes a little bit time. And we're docked. Beautiful. As you can see, this is our station. There are many like it, but this one is mine. So, thank you very much, guys, for watching. Like if you like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next KSP episode of hopefully Engineering and maybe Interplanetary Voyage. Who knows? Thanks again, and bye.